Welcome to the program. And while the coalition has moved closer to establishing itself as the party with the most seats in the parliament, its leader Tony Abbott has managed to put himself offside with the three independents who could deliver government to him if they so choose. The week of argument over who should form government erupted into a row today after the opposition's refusal to meet one of the independents' requests to allow the Departments of Treasury and Finance to cost the election promises of both major parties. The government has agreed to do so, but the opposition says it won't cooperate until a federal police investigation into the source of an alleged Treasury leak during the election campaign is completed. The independents have described Tony Abbott's refusal as a foolish move. Political editor Heather Hewitt.
There was a moment of unity as Julia Gillard and Tony Abbott today mourned the loss of Jason Brown, the 29-year-old Australian soldier killed 2 weeks ago in Afghanistan.
Rest in peace, my son. Your duty is done.
There are more funerals to come, but no matter which leader heads a minority government, both are committed to Australian troops in Afghanistan. It looks to be the only point of agreement right now, as the nation waits and waits for a new government to be formed. The latest hiccup is Tony Abbott's refusal to give his policy costings to Treasury for perusal, as demanded by the three rural independent MPs.
The public service is not in the same position vis-a-vis opposition policies to provide advice and insight as it is to provide advice and insight on government policies.
By this morning, Tony Abbott had firmed up his position. He's based it on his conviction there's a Treasury mole after a cabinet leak on a coalition costing submitted to the Charter of Budget Honesty, which is now being investigated by police. The independents are flabbergasted.
Every person in Australia at the present moment believes that he's got something to hide. I mean, I think he's been very ill-advised to take this stand.
Well, I think it's a fairly silly thing to do. It's not a good start. I can't see why an independent authority such as Treasury can't be trusted to look at those numbers. I can understand why he didn't want to do it prior to the election, but the election's over. We've got two groups wanting to be in power in this country, and we may be presided upon to help make that decision. So I'd suggest that Mr Abbott might like to change his mind on that.
He's not changing his mind, and throughout today he had his finance spokesman Andrew Robb out there selling this message for him.
We stand ready to provide all of our policies and savings to Treasury as soon as the police investigation is satisfactorily resolved.
Well, we're certainly determined to ensure the independents get all of the information that they need to take a decision in the national interest.
It is not unreasonable for us, given that 10 days out from an election, somebody was prepared in one of those areas to leak a document designed to cause significant political embarrassment to the coalition and undermine our whole costings process.
Although the opposition did not participate through the Charter of Budget Honesty fully, the fact is that the public service would be aware of the commitments of both the government as well as the opposition.
What do you do if the source is not found?
Well, what we've done to date, and that is have all of our proposals separately and independently costed.
However the opposition justifies its approach, the overwhelming perception it leaves, rightly or wrongly, is that it does have something to hide. This is not an election campaign where it has to convince voters. This is a battle to convince three independent MPs the coalition has the credentials to lead a minority government. The bottom line is they're not impressed with the argument on costings, that they have been handed the coalition's election policies.
We are carrying the coalition's election policies and the ALP's election policies in my briefcase, and we will go over those.
The independents are now at home in their rural electorates until next week. But if they need a helping hand in this long, slow process, they can call on Labor campaign strategist and lobbyist Bruce Hawker. Indeed, they nominated him themselves. On the Liberal side, they'll use former Howard government advisers Arthur Sinodinos and Graham Morris as sounding boards. The Abbott team is not happy with the choice of Hawker.
the complaints about the insidious sort of activities of lobbyists has been a feature of concern to all sides of politics, including the independents. It does seem somewhat incongruous that the first person nominated by Labor, and in fact nominated by the independents, was someone who is Labor's principal lobbyist, who is the spinmeister, who is Labor's principal strategist.
But hang on, hasn't Bruce Hawker been involved in past negotiations for state minority governments? And isn't former Howard advisor Graham Morris a lobbyist too? This whole saga gets more muddled by the day, and we shouldn't be holding our breaths for any quick resolution as the vote counting continues.
We've had 3 seats in doubt to this stage. We've got Corangamite, I think, is now firming towards the Labor Party. Hasluck has continued to trend towards the Liberal Party. There's still a lot of counting to be completed in Brisbane, so I think Brisbane is the one seat which will potentially still be in doubt going into next week. If Brisbane is going to be really close, then there may be some delay in the formation of government. We will know the result by the end of next week, and negotiations can start from that point on.
The electorate would no doubt prefer to see a finishing point, not a starting point, by the end of next week. But the reality is this could take weeks, and we're in uncharted political waters where anything could happen.